5. I draw in a strangled breath as two female attendants strap me down to the table. My eyes burn as I try to breathe past the assault of my heart, as it attempts to punch a hole in my ribcage, driving my terror that much closer to the surface, where I can no longer ignore it. I have to keep reminding myself that I agreed to this. I agreed to let Dr. Richter run his tests. Any sane person would ask me why. Not that I had much say in the matter. Even if I hadn't relented, he would have proceeded and I would have wound up on this table. But behind my fear, I'm curious to see what happens next. Regardless of what it takes, I want to know what's happening to me. I have nothing else. No home, no career prospects, no family. I only have the need to understand what I saw. Dr. Richter approaches the foot of the table and waves a hand, dismissing the two women beside me. With an obedient nod, they both slip away, stepping out of my line of vision. "Are you ready?" he asks. My lips press into a thin line. "That depends. What are you going to do to me?" He smiles as if it'll reassure me. It doesn't. "I want to recreate the experience you had the day of your placement exam. Hopefully, that will be enough to prove that I'm right about what you are. About your condition." And if it isn't, I want to press, but I can't find the words. Instead, I mutter, "How do you plan to do that?" "Well," he skirts around the table until he's standing next to my head. "We're going to inject you with an inhibitor that will slow down the normal functions of your brain. Once the inhibitor has set in, we'll send magnetic signals to a localized part of the occipital lobe, which is where the visions stem from. These signals should then follow a path to the superior temporal gyrus through a string of vibrations. If all goes according to plan, this will stimulate a response that should replicate what you experienced before. And if it doesn't go according to plan, what then?" But my fear of the answer prevents me from speaking. My gaze drops away. I don't really understand what he said, but I grasp enough to come up with one final question, the only question that really matters. "Will it hurt?" I whisper. I peek up and his smile deepens as he places a firm hand on my shoulder. "You'll feel a minor discomfort at most. Nothing to be concerned about. Rest easy. No harm will come to you here." His fingers curl around my shoulder and squeeze, but his grip is too tight to be consoling. The straps securing me down keep me still and prevent me from wriggling away from his touch. I hold my breath until he lets go of my arm. The seconds tick by in silence as he directs his attention to the equipment around me. To steady my nerves, I concentrate on the ceiling, counting the fluorescent lights and white tiles. None of my attempts to distract myself work, and my gaze snaps to the side at the clicking of footsteps. Another female attendant approaches the table, her face and eyes blank of any emotion, not that unlike everyone else in this city. Reaching for my arm, she wipes something wet across the skin at the crook of my elbow. "You'll feel a slight pinch," she warns. I grimace at the piercing sting of the needle, biting my tongue to keep from crying out as the attendant trails a line of tubing from the IV bag hanging from the stand beside the table down to my throbbing vein. Once everything is connected, she grabs a syringe of silver liquid off a nearby pushcart. "Everything is ready." At these words, Dr. Richter returns to my side, and a shudder of panic jolts through me when his fingers tug down the front of my gown, exposing the top of my chest. I struggle against the restraints as the same two thoughts strike me again and again. I've changed my mind. I don't want to do this. Tears curve down my cheeks as I bite back the protests pressing at the brink of my lips. I don't speak because I understand that what I want doesn't matter. I don't speak because fighting back will only draw this out and probably make it worse. Much worse. After all, the DSD owns me. I am their property to do whatever they want with. At that thought, I go still and give in to what's coming. Thankfully, Dr. Richter's fingers move quickly, attaching 3 circular pads in a straight line just under my collarbone. Once he's finished, the sound of my heartbeat projects through the room. I can hear my fear and the unsteady palpitations of my racing heart. The beeps grow more erratic when a metal halo drops down from the ceiling and encircles my head. At least a dozen bars extending from the inside of the ring and moving inward, pressing into my skull, trapping me like an animal in a cage. A buzzing sound fills my ears as a dew of sweat beads across my skin. A growl of frustration swelling in my throat as fear and anger go to war in my chest. Clenching my jaw, I peer sideways, watching Dr. Richter out of my peripheral vision. His back is turned toward me, his attention fixed on a glowing blue hologram screen above the white counter. Beside him, a panel on the countertop opens, revealing a wide glass tube that looks to be at least a foot in diameter. It rises up, containing a handful of small silver objects, which float as if suspended in water. A purple aura pulsates around them as they orbit each other like tiny planets. Dr. Richter nods. Introduce the inhibitor. I cast a terrified glance first at the woman, then at the syringe in her hand. She pushes the needle into the tube hanging from the IV bag, injecting the silver liquid, which works its way through the plastic down into my vein. As it enters my arm, the drug feels strange, cold like ice, sending a chill through my body followed by a wave of fire. A convulsion tears through me, and I thrash against the table, a cry lodged in my throat. 30 seconds until the inhibitor will enter the subject's brain. A deep male voice reports from across the room. I try to look at whoever spoke, but I can't turn my head. The halo holds me still. An automated female voice projects from the loudspeaker, counting down to what I'm certain will be my demise. 25 seconds remaining. As terror consumes me, I have to remind myself this would have happened either way. Even if I hadn't agreed to it, Dr. Richter would have run these experiments. In the end, I never had a choice. 20 seconds remaining. My heart is pounding. I can feel it. I can hear it. 10 seconds remaining. I don't want this. I'm scared. 5 seconds remaining. My eyes find Dr. Richter's as my mouth shapes the words needed to beg him to stop. But all that springs free from my dried lips is silence. 4. The floating objects cease mid-orbit, almost as if time has frozen around them. 3. The purple glow brightens as the silver balls move outward, shifting away from each other. 2. They draw together again with a flash and a bang, like an elastic band that's been pulled taut and then snapped. The entirety of the room goes white, blinding me. 1. When the countdown hits 0, a scream explodes from my lungs. It's as if 1,000 lightning bolts have all struck at once, hitting me in the same place in my head. I gasp for air, trying to breathe through the pain, but it's everywhere. It's everywhere. My vision clears just enough to make out the sharp planes of Dr. Richter's angular face. I follow his unblinking gaze to the silver objects, which have commenced their rotations. After a few orbits, they slow again, pulsing, and then again, Dr. Richter hisses. This time, when the lightning strikes, my body goes limp. Her heart rate is dropping, a distant voice warns. Dr. Richter doesn't even spare me a pitying look when he bites back. Continue until there's a response. No more, I try to plead, but I can't find my voice. Over and over again, the lightning cuts into me, sawing my brain in half. I scream until I can't scream any longer, and I lack the energy to do more than simply lie still. Waiting for this torment to pass, the pain is too much. I just want it to end. When the lightning finally stops, the bursts of white surrounding me fade until my mind is lost to unending blackness. All that exists around me is pain, and I'm floundering in a sea of it, drowning. Surrendering to the waves determined to crush me, my eyelids droop closed, and my body gives in to the welcome embrace of unconsciousness.